I'm Jason Swindle of Swindle Law Group. As a criminal defense attorney, my record of protecting the constitutional rights of our people is rock solid. My sole focus is criminal law, which includes DUI. If you are a loved one or in need of a lawyer who only practices criminal defense, do your own research. Then contact Swindle Law Group in Carrollton, serving West Georgia and the metro area.
National headlines and the local stories you care about. WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We are very honored to have back in studio, and it was a deliberate decision, Robert Blakemore, president of the Bowdon Historical Society, and also president of the Carroll County Historical Society. We had Robert on recently. We talked a lot about Bowdon College, which is fascinating. That's archived on our YouTube channel. And so you can go back and visit that. Today we're still on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live. But we've got Robert in studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Yes.
I wanted to delve into a topic that I think, to me, is extremely interesting. I hope everyone else thinks accordingly. Is there was basically a railroad between Bowdon and Bowdon Junction.
Yes.
And back in the early 1900s, and it's hard for us to imagine, and this is kind of what I wanted to do, was it's hard for us to imagine what that was like in the context it was in and how significant it was for the people during that time. So I'm going to kind of just open the floor.
When we start looking at it, Bowdon Junction wasn't Bowdon Junction at the time. It was just the Harmony community.
Okay.
There were houses kind of starting to build up in there, but Bowdon, we made, I guess, Bowdon Junction because it was the junction to Bowdon. But they became, a community.
I didn't know why we called it Bowdon Junction.
Yeah, it became Bowdon Junction because that's where we tied into the railroad at.
Okay. Do you want to kind of work backwards on this? I know you mentioned about the celebration of the opening of the railroad was huge, and that might kind of give the listener an idea of
I know that, I guess, a lot of communities were, made because of the railroad came into their area. Mm-hmm. And Bowdon was Bowdon was one that kind of really progressed with the railroad. I think it was Thanksgiving Day 1910 is when they finally opened the railroad. And the whole town came out to celebrate. The newspaper reported that there were like 10,000 people present and Dr. Lovren sponsored a barbecue. And I believe they said they had served about 4,000 pounds of barbecue beef at the Bowdon College, and then they moved down to the depot area.
So, and the governor was there, Hoke Smith, what a name, Hoke Smith, and Congressman William Charles Adamson was there. I mean, it was a
big celebration because it lasted all day, and then they offered free rides from Bowdon to Bowdon Junction, but because they didn't have the turnaround points connected yet, they had to drive straight to Bowdon Junction, but then had to back up from Bowdon Junction to Bowdon.
Now, this was a steam engine, right? Of course.
Yes.
And it had passenger cars.
It had a passenger car and then freight cars. Now, the passenger car was really kind of dolled up because it had the green velvet seats and carpet in the aisles with brass hanging lights in it and then brass fixtures. So it was really kind of dolled up like they see in the movies.
Elvis Presley style.
Yes.
All right. So prior to that time, when we talked last show about Bowdon College, so the only transportation up to that point between Bowdon, I guess, Carrollton.
But horse and buggy and wagons.
Horse and buggy and wagons.
Because at that time, too, the roads have not been paved yet.
Of course not.
And so they were starting, I guess, to do that in some of the areas. And then in Bowdon, they were all dirt roads still. And I guess the thing with Bowdon, I guess Dr. Lovren is the one who really kind of brought the railroad into Bowdon because he had the cotton mill cotton mill, and then he also had the cotton oil mill that would press the oil out of the cotton seed. And he was having to take it to Carrollton by wagon using barrels. But he could only put like 2 barrels at a time on a wagon because of the weight for the mules to carry in, and it was just not productive. He needed a bigger vat to put the oil in, and he needed to get it to market faster. And so he's the one who kind of helped put the idea of the railroad together. Now, Dr. Lovren, he was really kind of ahead of his time. He was really an innovator, too. His house had a windmill in his backyard, so he had the first electricity in his house, and he also was the first one to have a telephone in his house.
So this is the large house on the corner there.
Yes, right there beside the Wendy's in Bowdon.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a very large
and
house.
I think I know back then in 1900s, a lot of the doctors made house calls. Mm-hmm. And he was one that, if you got a call in the middle of the night, he would press a buzzer in his house, which would wake up the guy in the carriage house, and he would start getting the horse and buggy ready to go. So when he got dressed, the horse and buggy was outside the porch, so he could go to make the house call. So he was really ahead of his time in his thinking.
Was the hospital and Dr. Watts after that?
After that, way after that.
Way after that?
Yeah.
So was Dr. Lovren, really the first?
He wasn't the first doctor. He was probably the most prominent doctor.
Right.
And because there was Dr. Collier before him.
Well, so how many people lived in Bowdon at the time?
I think at that time, 361.
361, and you got 10,000 people for the opening ceremony.
Yeah. Now this was, I guess, the whole Bowdon community came out, and Carrollton came out, Mount Zion. I guess everybody came out because there was another little celebration in Bowdon Junction, but the big celebration was in East Alabama came out. I guess a lot of people were finally the railroad's here. We're going to make some money. I know, because you figure getting cotton to Carrollton even. Yeah. You can only put like 2 bales on a wagon because of the size of it and the weight of it. Yeah. But now you could fill up a whole freight car on the train and get more cotton to market faster. And sometimes getting it to the dealers faster, sometimes you could beat somebody else that's selling cotton too.
It's funny when you say faster. I mean, not in our terminology. It takes 20 minutes to get from here to Bowdon or something. Or less. But when all you had were wagons and cars,
and if the road was muddy, then they would get stuck.
Yeah.
And I guess the train only traveled 12 miles per hour. If it got much faster than that, then it would jump the track kind of thing. But it was still faster than a horse and buggy, horse and wagon kind of thing.
Did you get stories of it jumping the track?
It would probably be about once or twice a week. Would jump the track.
How do they get it back on? I mean,
they had little pulleys and all that they would use to pull it back to, using the trees and things like that to pull it back into place. But if they got to going fast, and sometimes the engineer would kind of want to open it up, and if he did, it would jump the track.
Gee. What you used the term economics, so how economically did this impact Bowdon?
Well, I guess the thing too, when as far as taking the merchandise out, the cotton and lumber and the cottonseed oil out of Bowdon to sell, but it also was able to bring product into Bowdon, fertilizer, flour, and it's kind of one of those things that the merchants back then realized that if it's not on the shelf, nobody can buy it. And if Mama needs flour for the biscuits and you don't have the flour, she's going to the next store. So they were able to bring in by freight more bags of wheat, more bags of flour, more bags of sugar and things like that, so they could have more on their shelf to sell.
So I guess you could say because of this railroad from between Bowdon and Bowdon Junction, Bowdon was able to sustain itself.
And grow. If you look at the stores, you notice when right after 1910, when it opened, the stores, they started getting more stores opening up in Bowdon. And then when the Sewell manufacturing opened up there in 33, they were able to bring in material for the suits, and then also when they were finished, able to ship them through the railroad.
Uh-huh.
And so they would tie into Bowdon Junction, and then it would tie into the rail going into Atlanta.
So between the Sewell manufacturing and the railroad, Bowdon was set for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they said that in its peak in the 1920s, that it would net about, I guess it would make about $120,000 a year, and it would cost $60,000 to run it. But then you would make $60,000 profit, which would be about $2 million in today's money.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was making a good bit of money at that when it first started kind of thing.
Joe, I don't know if you can pull up the map, but if you can, for the Facebook viewers, give us the route also tends to fascinate me. It was pretty straightforward in that it went out 166 eastward, then it headed north up Burwell and up the roads, right?
It had, I guess there were depot stops were, it was a 12-mile stretch, 100 feet wide for the right-of-way clearing, and it went from Bowdon to Bowdon Junction with 18 road crossings. The Burwell, the depots were located at Bowdon, Burwell, Mount Zion, and Bowdon Junction. And then there were what they call flag stops or passenger stops that were at Jonesville, Ashmore Crossing, and the Ernest Community, getting close to I think that three-way stop there going into Mount Zion.
And Mount Zion in 1930, according to the census, had 121 people.
Yes, and I think Mr. J.A. Hearn of Burwell, he agreed to invest in the railroad if they would put a depot there in the Burwell community.
Uh-huh.
And this would also be a passenger stop, too. So they could pick up passengers at each of the depots, or they could pick up and drop off supplies.
It says here in 1930, the census indicated there were 1,024 people in Bowdon. But to me, this just even emphasizes further the uniqueness of Bowdon College.
Yes.
You were able to sustain a college prior to any real connectivity.
So you got people, I guess the passengers, people coming into Bowdon, and there was one of the, what they call, the salesman would use the train to come into Bowdon. They called them drummers because they were coming into town to drum up business.
But salespeople are called drummers.
But there was one of the, I guess the salesman that came into town to sell, he actually ended up staying in Bowdon and working for one of the wholesale grocery companies there because he just liked the area. And so a lot of people did move their family there because, I guess, the railroad, and it was a growing community.
Mm-hmm. But we did make an attempt to go from Bowdon to Waco, but that didn't happen, right?
I think they started construction right there in the Burwell community, but then it just got they didn't have the funding to do it at that time.
Right.
But the spark, the interest, the dream started kind of there that one day, someday, we'll have a railroad. And
we didn't, it was discussed about connecting to Carrollton, but that didn't happen either.
I think there were some negotiations to try to get, and there was some money that changed hands, but I believe they got the money refunded, but, and there may have been some competition kind of in there too. Carrollton wanted to keep, I guess, the market, maybe.
A name that when we look back in history, a name that we often receive is W.C. Roop, the Roop family, the Roop House, Roopville, et cetera, et cetera. Now, he played a role in, it was 1944.
I think when the Bowdon, I guess the railroad was going into about 1944, it started losing money then. And it went into what they call a receivership, and he was the receiver. W.C. was the president of the bank at the time, too. And he took over the railroad company, and then the next year he bought it for, I think, $10,000, and then he would operate it and try to make a go of it. But I guess at that time, too, they were beginning to build trucks. Trucks were coming into the market, and then they were beginning to pave some of the roads and things like that. So he says later, I guess in 1962, 63, when it finally just closed, he said that the trucks and the roads, highways, were able to kill the railroad, basically, because a lot of times farmers would order fertilizer and they would just deliver it by truck from the warehouse kind of thing in Atlanta.
Be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I mean,
so instead of dropping it off in Bowdon, then you have to bring your truck or wagon to Bowdon to pick it up and carry it. They delivered directly to the house or to the farm.
And then probably the cotton production decreased too.
Yeah.
During that time.
And I think at that point, poultry kind of started taking over.
Yeah.
But the cotton, I guess, began to decline. And but I think he used it, Mr. Roop, he used it mostly for bringing supplies in for the warehouse grocery stores. The big bags of sugar, flour, and things like that. Because even in the 30s and 40s, people were using a lot of homemade meals kind of thing.
So apparently in the 50s, probably in conjunction with trying to save the railroad, they bought a new steam engine.
Yes. Well, I guess the first railroad engine they leased from the Central of Georgia for that maybe 15-year period or 20-year period. And then when they called it back, they had to get another engine. And that's when they bought this one. And it was I think what they call a 4-4-4, referring to the wheel configuration. That means there were 4 little wheels in the front, 4 big wheels in the back, and no wheels under the cab. And later, this engine was converted to coal. So
basically, it was modern style engine,
modern
what
style.
we would recognize as an engine. So, can you see today? I know we pulled the map up. Can you see the remnants of the tracks and everything?
I think most of the track has been pulled up and sold. It was sold as one of the last assets, and then the right of way was sold as one of the last assets.
So there's no clear evidence.
But you can still see some of the right of way clearings. They're still in place.
You can still see those.
Some of the families have still maintained that, just use it for farming and things.
Yeah. Okay. How much of this is in the museum that you have that references this?
We have in the museum probably a folder about 3 inches thick with all the newspaper clippings over the years and articles about the railroad, and then some oral histories about the railroad, people that were actually there that wrote down their notes. And I guess Tracy Teal did a fantastic job in 1976 doing the research on the railroad and was able to talk to a lot of the people who were there as part of the railroad. The
Tracy
railroad.
Being a sole commissioner at the time?
Yes, and Spencer Teal was his dad.
Spencer Teal was his dad of the Teal family?
Teal family, yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seems fascinating to me if you had 10,000 people to show up for the groundbreaking or whatever, the opening of the railroad, and you only had, whatever it was, 1,024 people in the whole city.
Yes.
And the governor was there and congressman was there. That's a big deal.
I guess and I guess it was kind of funny too, I guess when they were interviewing Mr. Roop at the end, he said there were like 10,000 people there at the opening day, but there were hardly anybody there on its last day.
We also had a president, U.S. Senator Joseph M. Terrell. And we had a parade and Bowdon's brass band. That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, it was like I said, it was a day-long celebration getting the because it was big for Bowdon because they knew that they were going to get on the radar then.
Well, if you had 10,000 people, you're not going to be able to get everybody a ride on that day.
Well, yeah.
So yeah. I guess the privileged got...
well, true. And I know a lot of kids, but I guess it's like the railroad, with any railroad, you could hear what they call the Bowdon Dugan coming. It always, even though the engine changed, it always maintained the name Bowdon Dugan.
Why? What does that mean?
Now, I think they said Dan Aiken in his article, it said that the rhythm that the train would make on the track, that particular track, it almost sounded like the Bowdon Dugan, Bowdon Dugan, Bowdon Dugan kind of thing.
Bowdon Dugan, Bowdon Dugan, Bowdon.
It just kind of, I guess, it just kind of played that song, I guess, with the rhythm hitting the track.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the song.
Well, I guess it just sounded. The sound that it made, it almost sounded like it was saying Bowdon Dugan.
Oh, okay. So it was making up its own song.
Yeah, making up its own song.
As it went.
But the kids would, when they heard it coming, they would put the little pennies out there and let it squash the pennies and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Our guest this morning is Robert Blakemore, president of the Bowdon Historical Society and president of the Carroll County Historical Society. We've been all things railroad so far. We'll be back with more after this.
Imagine a place where every heartbeat is monitored with the utmost care, where emergencies are met with swift attention, and where cutting-edge technology enables precise and timely treatments. At Tanner Health, every patient's journey is a testament to resilience, a story of strength, healing, and hope. We go beyond treatment to redefine what compassionate care truly means. That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. We've been talking with Robert Blakemore, president of the Bowdon Historical Society, about the Bowdon rail line, and very, very interesting. I don't think we in 2026 recognize even only from a point of frustration, I guess you will, when we're in Villarica Temple or Tallapoosa or Bremen, when the trains go by every 20 minutes, and it's really kind of wild, we get, there's that train again, I can't hear what you're saying. and yet, back in 1910, it was a massive celebration. Yeah.
And I guess I know Dr. Lovren was, like I said, an innovator at his time and very forward thinking. He, I guess, got a very lucrative contract with the U.S. government to pick up the mail at Bowdon Junction coming from Atlanta and bring it into Bowdon. So the Bowdon Railroad made 3 runs a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, bringing the mail back to Bowdon, and then they would go back to in the evening to pick up the people to bring them back. They were traveling into town for work.
A lot of these cities were built around the railroad.
Yes.
That's why we see it along Highway 78 and the railroad east-west.
Yes.
But you also mentioned Whitesburg.
Now, Whitesburg, they say, is the accidental city because it took so long cutting through the granite there that they just built a city around it.
Okay, seems like a good enough reason.
Yep. It was like a year before they were able to get through because it just took so long to cut through everything. They had the little stores and things like that, and then more stores kind of started coming in, and then they built a depot there.
But the Atlanta-Birmingham line was critical to the growth of the region and in part into the country, I'm sure.
Yes, and then I guess going into Nashville and those kinds of places, I mean, you really opened up your market.
Yeah.
As far as passenger travel, but also bringing in and selling goods.
Yeah, I don't know how much is transported by train these days, but
most of it is like the big stuff, like coal and those kinds of things.
Well, Norfolk Southern makes, I think, a pretty decent profit.
Yeah,
I think they're happy. Last time when you were on, we were talking about the college. We really didn't get to talk very much about the Historical Society itself. Tell us about, because even where you're located, even where the museum is, has a very interesting history.
Yeah, the Bowdon, I guess what we call the Bowdon Museum, is located in the Methodist Protestant Church behind the high school parking lot. And it was the church that really kind of served the college. It was built back in the college days. And it, I guess, became, when they combined all the Methodist church into one, it still operated as a small church, but then it became property like a storage building for the high school there.
But it also burned down.
I think first it burned down, and they built it back into another wood structure, and then the storm destroyed it in 1934, and then they built it back in brick.
You say the storm, that was a tornado.
It's kind of, they call it a typhoon, because it destroyed probably about 15 houses in Bowdon. Damaged a lot of them, but destroyed some of them that they had to be taken down.
15?
Yeah.
Ooh. That's a lot.
No, it was a big, massive storm. They called it a typhoon in the newspaper.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have to ask Kevin about
that.
Anyway, but that church was established by one of the founding fathers of Bowdon, George McDaniel, who became president of the college, correct?
Yes. I think it was Mr. Adamson. WC's dad donated the land to build the church originally.
Okay.
And then there's the cemetery behind it now that Mr. McDaniel is buried in. Right.
Well, now he became a colonel. Is that, or am I thinking about a different one?
He was fought in the Civil War and died in the Civil War at the Battle of Perryville, and I think they were going to bury him up there, but the town of Bowdon said no, we want him reinterred here. Right. So they paid to have him brought to Bowdon and
I'm thinking about
properly
the same
buried.
One. Yeah, I'm thinking about the same one. But his brother came to serve as the church's minister.
Yes.
So y'all, Charles, so that's where the museum is right now.
Yeah, we're located in the building.
But you have a meeting room next to it.
Right behind the museum is the McDaniel Hall, and I guess just through the years, through some gracious people in the Bowdon and Bowdon area community, have donated different artifacts, military uniforms, and things like that we're just out of space now. So we're in the process of expanding our exhibit space by about 1,000 square feet.
That's pretty
And it's going to be
significant.
beside the McDaniel Hall.
Okay.
And but it will have we're kind of really excited about it because it's going to give us an opportunity to have a Native American display, a Black history display, and then we'll be able to also use the space there for the current schools. We have a nice display for the early schools of Bowdon, but we don't have anything, I guess, kind of highlighting the state championships. So we want to have a space there. And then they'll have some individual, we're going to move the military exhibit in there because we just need more space for it to spread out. And then we'll have some other cabinets, display cabinets, to kind of highlight some of the other highlights and things that gets the Bowdon people. We have a really phenomenal musical talent that has come from Bowdon. So we'll have one cabinet just showing, highlighting the musical talent from Bowdon.
Okay.
And I guess it's just when you start looking, I know that all the little towns have a unique story.
Right.
We're fortunate in Bowdon that people have given us documents, photographs, artifacts, and just things like that kind of tell the story of Bowdon. Jim Rowell and yes, Judy said that every artifact we have in the museum has a story to go along with it. And it's just like, wow. And then when you start hearing the story, it's like, wow,
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take another break. We'll be back more to wrap it up with Robert Blakemore after these words.
Imagine a place where every heartbeat is monitored with the utmost care, where emergencies are met with swift attention, and where cutting-edge technology enables precise and timely treatments. At Tanner Health, every patient's journey is a testament to resilience, a story of strength, healing, and hope. We go beyond treatment to redefine what compassionate care truly means. That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Welcome back to the Community Voice. We're very pleased to have in studio Robert Blakemore, President of the Bowdon Historical Society and President of the Carroll County Historical Society, as we mark the 200th anniversary of the establishment of Carroll County. We're going to do more, obviously, programs like this. Well, if you're going to expand the museum, that means you've got to have some fundraising going on.
Yes, and we're fortunate that we had an initial donation of $50,000 with a pledge that if we raise 50, then they'll, I guess, offer another $50,000. So we anticipate the building costing $185, and with the help of the city of Bowdon, we're right there close to the $185 mark. But then we'll have to buy the cabinets and things like that on the inside.
Do you foresee where, obviously, if you're going to make it available to the public, you got somebody that's going to open it up, that's going to kind of maintain it?
Yeah, we're open every Tuesday now. We have volunteers from the society that open up the museum every Tuesday.
All day long?
From 9 to 12.
Okay.
And then we also have special openings, too. So if you have a family reunion you'd like to do, would like to see the museum, then we can work that out, too. But we do open every Tuesday, 9 to 12, so people can tour the museum.
And
and there's no cost to tour the museum.
Right, and then obviously very valuable for school children and schools.
Yes. We're fortunate that we're working with the schools now, and we've got another big event, the Pioneer Days that we're hosting in September with the elementary school. And they will come in and see. We got maybe 40 different spots that they're going to be experiencing pioneer life in that day.
Well, it's very rich history.
Yes.
I mean, you got a lot. I mean, how many towns of this size has a college, a railroad, and steel manufacturing?
Yes. And I guess, like I said, we were fortunate that people donated the artifacts because we have a phenomenal collection of artifacts and just a ton, really, of newspaper clippings and the photographs from the early days. So
if people want to learn more or become involved, I understand you got a website?
We do. You can visit bowdonhistory.com, and it will have some of the stories about Bowdon. And then there's also a searchable database there that you can look for items in Bowdon.
All right. Well, thank you to Robert Blakemore for his second visit this year. And President of the Bowdon Historical Society, all things Bowdon. Go out and make it a great day. God bless our troops here in tune to WLBB Carrollton.